I'm Ted Keys in Pasadena, California. Welcome to my Tuesday conference call, a free high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing freight agents. Go to tedkeysonline.com for complete call information. Then join us weekly to see new, serious, struggling, and experienced sales professionals move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. So watch my recorded call topic highlighted there on your screen right now. When you're finished, go to tedkeysonline.com and hear more podcasts. Read more blog posts, watch more videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. Enjoy watching and applying my Tuesday conference call.
Hello and welcome everybody again to my Tuesday conference call. Ted Keys, your host here in Pasadena, California. Again, this is a call I do every Tuesday, 2 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Eastern time. It's a call where you will learn how to move more freight or move freight more productively, efficiently, effectively. So in the end, or partially or part of the end, you'll make more money financially. I'm assuming that all of you have received an email from me today. Go ahead and open up that email announcing my call. As usual, I go over a number of attachments down on the bottom. Today's call is titled Increase Your Sales Connections with This Little Phrase. One more time, increase your sales connections with this little phrase. Let's go ahead and examine those attachments at the bottom of your email there. Now, as usual, guys, I go over our Green Meadows Productions leaderboard. Again, you'll see that is a new leaderboard for this month. Your goal is to get your name on that leaderboard as an agent for Green Meadows Productions. You will see that there are a couple new names on there. I will say it again. Make it your goal to get your name on this board. Whether you typically, if you're just starting, you'll start at the bottom and make your way up the ladder. That will show that you are making progress. You're increasing your skills as a successful freight sales agent. Okay, I'm going to X out of there. I'm going to direct you to that first attachment there. Just go ahead and open up that first attachment there. Again, our topic is titled Increase Your Sales Connections with This Little Phrase. Increase your sales connections with this little phrase. Now, typically, I give you a number of ways to increase your sales connections, but I always refer to when you're making connections, it is best that when you're talking to your shipping decision maker, that make sure that you're saying things that they can relate to. Whether you've done research on their company, whatever it is, you were referred to them from somebody, when you can come up with something like that, they will be more averse to listening to you. Whereas if you just go into the call, tell them how great you are, how great your company is, well, you can expect to be hung up on immediately. But if you put the focus on them, they will stick around to listen to what you have to say. So increase your sales connections just with this little phrase I'm going to talk about here shortly. Now, the reason one prospect responds to a certain message while another ignores it is all but impossible to determine. You don't know unless you actually ask them, but typically they're not going to tell you anyway. Now, the root causes of your prospect's behavior is often a mystery to us freight sales agents. All we can do is to keep iterating prospecting emails and calls until they strike on a message that seems to resonate. Now, what if you included one little phrase in your sales calls and emails that could not only double, not only triple, but potentially quadruple your connections, your connection rates? That would save you hours upon hours of trial and error. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, if you could just say one little phrase that most people will listen and want to hear what you have to say. Now, HipLead is a market research firm. It analyzed, again, that's called HipLead. They analyzed buyer behavior to reveal these informative patterns, and what they found is incredibly valuable for any freight sales agent tasked with what we do, and that is prospecting and connecting with our market base. According to the research, based on real cold-called emails sent in by real reps, name dropping, again, name dropping will get a freight sales agent everywhere when attempting to get in the door. Have you caught on to my little phrase yet? Well, here's a start. Name dropping will get a freight sales agent everywhere when attempting to get in the door. The most eyebrow-raising results of the study that HipLead did is the first point, mentioning in an email that a well-known investor was backing the freight agent's company increased the connection rate by 111%. Now, think about it. You mentioned the fact that a well-known investor, somebody extremely wealthy, I'm not going to name names or company, but just mentioning the fact that a well-known investor was backing your company is going to increase that connection rate by 111%. Second point is if you mention a famous customer of the company's in an email, that's going to increase the connection rate by 208%. If you just happen to mention that, hey, I move loads for Walmart, believe me, that shipping decision maker is going to listen to what you have to hear. Here's a third point, mentioning LinkedIn connections. This is what we're going to talk about most today. Mentioning LinkedIn connections that the freight agent and prospect shared in common, that you and your prospect shared in common, increased the connection rate by a whopping 468%. That's the main topic that we're going to talk about. Shared connections on LinkedIn. Now, you can do this in any aspect, but specifically we're just going to talk about LinkedIn today. Now, I have a LinkedIn account. I highly advise you to get a LinkedIn account. Don't ask me how to use it. Believe me, there is a ton of information out there on how to build your LinkedIn profile and actually how to utilize it. But that's not the topic for today. The topic is how do you use shared connections on LinkedIn? Now, with this data in mind, freight sales agents who'd like to quadruple the number of successful prospecting calls they're making would be wise to include the following phrase in their sales outreach as they're on LinkedIn making connections. So you happen to see a shipping manager. I mean, that's his title. That's a title he or she uses as their title. The best thing that you can say to them is, if you're actually looking to create a connection with them, is, I noticed that you and I are both connected to X on LinkedIn. One more time. I noticed that you and I are both connected to X, meaning this person, on LinkedIn. Now, in the experiment, emails that included a reference, again, this is the experiment we're talking about with HipLead, the market research firm. In their experiment, emails that included a reference to shared LinkedIn connections garnered a 25.5% connection rate as opposed to a standard 4.4 rate in an averaged email. Now, in a post on the study, HipLead again chalked up the spike in connection rates to social proof, i.e. social media. Here's what an individual said. Social proof matters, especially when you're interacting with someone who doesn't know you. One more time. Social proof matters, especially when you're interacting with someone who doesn't know you. That means that social proof can have a huge impact on your sales, particularly when cold emailing someone, again, according to HipLead. Now, I'm just using LinkedIn as an example, but this all comes down to social proof. When you can tell a potential connection that you're connected by somebody else or that you were referred by somebody else, it's just going to be that much easier building that relationship. So before you write your next cold email or pick up the phone to make a prospecting call, check out your prospect's LinkedIn profile and scroll to the In Common With section. One little sentence could make the difference between a calendar packed with new connections and an all but empty pipeline if you didn't have something like that to work with. So there's your one little phrase to increase your sales connections, and that phrase is, use it for LinkedIn, use it for any other type of situation. I notice that you and I are both connected to X. I notice that you and I are both connected to X. I was referred to you by X. X told me to give you a call. When you can relate with somebody else to this individual that you're attempting to make a connection with, it makes it so much easier, as I continue to repeat anytime I go over these topics. So increase your sales connections with that one little phrase. Let's go ahead and move on to our next attachment there. Next attachment. Now, this is somewhat on the same line, but we're going to talk about when, after you've built that connection or starting to build that connection, I'm going to talk about worthless phrases that make liars out of your prospects. Yeah, I'm just laying it all on the line here. These are worthless phrases that will make liars not only out of our prospects, but even out of us. Let me explain further here. Now, you repeat these phrases over and over again, and they are, well, keep us in mind, okay, or here's my number in case you need anything. Now, these are lines that we give to our prospects when really we don't have anything to say or no value to add to them. Let me repeat that again. Well, keep us in mind, okay, or here's my number if you need anything. Well, what do you think your prospects are doing when you say that to them? And here's a hint. The main hint here is they are not scrambling for a pen. Even when you're the prospect, when you're the one being called, say by a telemarketer, you don't feel the least bit of remorse when you respond with an okay, I'll keep you in mind. These cold-ended phrases make liars out of us and our prospects when we use them, when we say it, when they say it. Face it, they have no intention, we have no intention of keeping anybody in mind, let alone writing down our number. Okay? So these phrases don't accomplish anything positive and give no reason for our prospect to ever want to consider keeping you personally in mind or even calling you, but you can and should salvage something from these calls. Here's what you should do and say instead. I'm going to give you two options here. Here's what you should do and say instead. The first option is always determine if there's any potential to move their freight. Always determine if there's any potential to move their freight. What do I mean by that? Well, a money and time-wasting mistake is hanging on to prospects when there's no shred of evidence that your prospect ever intends to utilize your freight service. These types of prospects typically get recycled through your CRM over and over again. How often do you send out an email or even make a cold call to a prospect that doesn't respond or keep saying the same thing over and over again? Now, there is a certain percentage of them that will eventually give you the opportunity, but they're few and far between. You peruse your notes, and you get that aching pang in your stomach recalling the last dead-end call that you had with them. Well, since there's nothing leading you to believe that they're any better of a prospect today, you simply page through the next prospect, postponing the inevitable. Or do you call and experience either rejection or yet another put-off? So what do you do instead? Well, find out for sure if they have the potential use, Finding out for sure if they have the potential use, you ask. Here's an example of what you may say. Here's an example of what you should say. Ben, under what circumstances would you ever see yourself considering another freight provider? I mean, that's just something to throw out there. I mean, if they're not responding, if they're not giving you the opportunity, there's a great example to just throw out the question, under what circumstances would you ever see yourself considering another freight provider? Notice the wording here, folks. It's a question that not only asks if they ever would use someone else, but inquires after the circumstances that would surround such a decision. Now, if your prospect answers your question with a specific scenario, then you have an opportunity to pick up on that remark and continue questioning. On the other hand, guys, if they say, look, you're wasting your time, buddy, quit calling me, write them off, and move on. Believe me, if somebody tells you that, again, look, you're wasting your time, buddy, quit calling me, write them off, and move on. Then feel good about it because you've obtained their decision. They've actually told you, hey, look, I don't have anything for you today. I mean, when they actually tell you that, yes, it's time to move on. Stop wasting your time with them. That's basically where you've determined if there's any potential to move their freight, and guess what? There's no potential to move their freight. When you continue to recycle contacts who will never utilize your freight service, you're simply rescheduling the next brush off. Don't do that. Determine as quickly as you can, do they qualify or will they utilize your freight service? Now, your most precious commodity is time, guys. Protect it with all you have since you'll never get it back. Here's the second thing. To stop making liars out of your prospects, the second thing is proactively give your prospects something to think about. Let me say that again. Proactively give your prospects something to think about. Let me say it again. Keep us in mind. It is a totally worthless phrase. And remember, it's a phrase that's coming out of your mouth. It's not coming out of their mouth. It's coming out of your mouth. So if you truly want someone to keep you in mind, then give them a reason to keep you in mind. Tie it into a challenge that they actually experience, a challenge you can solve, at least. That'll not only prompt them to think of you, but better yet, call you. Let's say a freight sales agent knows she can assist a company lower their freight charges, but they either don't see the need at this point, meaning your prospect doesn't see the need at this point, or they don't believe her. Well, here's what she can do. She can end her call with this. I know we can assist you. Here's something to consider. When you review your freight charges, take a look at your specific charges for your out-of-state lanes. If you feel those rates are high, keep in mind we're specialists on the tax laws in every state. Know the best way to challenge and eventually lower your freight bill. I'll send you an email with my contact info in it, so keep it in your file and give me a call then if you feel it would assist you. Don't make liars out of people. Here's the end result. Don't make liars out of people. Determine if there will ever be potential for a sale. If not, move them out of your system and look at that as a victory, that you're actually moving them out of your system. You're not going to mess with them anymore. Yes, there are large amounts of people that are in our CRM or our contact list that will never utilize us or have a requirement for our service. Now, bear with me. If not, like I said, move them out of your system. Look at it as a victory. If there is, give them examples of situations to look for and associate them with a problem that you can solve. That's what I keep saying every time. Look for that challenge to assist them in overcoming. Look for that problem to solve. When they do experience those problems, they just may think of you. But they're only going to think of you because you've kept them in there, because they still qualify for our freight service. So stop saying these worthless phrases. Stop saying these worthless phrases that make liars out of our prospects. I mean, wouldn't you want them to be honest with you anyway, to say, hey, I don't require you, or I'll keep you in mind. I mean, at least you've got something. But to just to come up with that, to keep us in mind, or here's my number if you need anything. That's like one of the lamest responses that you can give to anybody. Find out if they actually require you. Okay. Those are basically that's basically my head topic for today. But let me just go over a few points here, 4 quick points here to round up my call here, and that is opening that next attachment. Remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, this goes in direct relationship to what I went over earlier. Make the sale easier, as I said before, using that LinkedIn example. Establish rapport first. When you find common interests and build relationships, people are more likely to buy from a friend than a salesperson. So when you establish that rapport first and you find those common interests to build that relationship, people are more likely to buy from a friend than they will be from a salesperson. Remember that when you're calling your prospects and customers to make your sale easier. Let's move on to that next one, guys. The next attachment. Next attachment reads. Remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, don't attempt. Hang on for a second here. I started with the wrong one. Going back. Remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers. Now, I'm not just talking about. I am talking about your prospects and customers, but remember to build rapport with the gatekeeper as well. Build rapport with the gatekeeper as well so that they will work with you and deliver your message personally. Build rapport with the gatekeeper, whoever it is that answers the phone, so that they'll work with you and deliver your message personally. Work with them anyway, not just to deliver your message, because when you call the next time, it won't be the first time that they deliver your message. So you want to build rapport with your gatekeeper as well, but again, build it on their timeline. Don't just charge in there and attempt to build a relationship with the gatekeeper as well. Just say something, mention where they're located in Nashville or Tucson or wherever they are. Even say something to the gatekeeper that they can relate to. Let's go ahead and open up that next attachment, guys. Opening up the next attachment, second row. Remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, don't ever attempt to go above, around, through, over, or past the gatekeeper. Let me say that again. Remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, don't ever attempt to go above, around, through, over, or past the gatekeeper. Work with them so you're perceived as a professional. Believe me, you are not the only freight sales agent calling this company. You are one of many. When you act like a professional, it will stand out in the gatekeeper's mind. One more way to stick around a lot longer. Don't ever attempt to go above, around, over, past, or through them. Your main desire is to be perceived as a professional. When you're perceived as one, you will be treated as one. Last point on this topic, and that is opening that next attachment. Remember, always ask for the shipping decision maker's direct number. If you feel you don't have it, again, this deals directly with the gatekeeper or anyone else that answers a phone. Remember, when you're calling them, prospect or customer, always ask for the shipping decision maker's direct number, their direct number. You don't want to keep, stumbling around when you call them and you're asking for their number again. Just ask right away, what's their direct number? So if if they're in a whole different department, you don't have to keep going through the same person answering the phone every time. Again, always ask for the shipping decision maker's direct number. Okay, great topic for today. Let me wrap it up with my Bible insight. As I say on every call, a lot of what I teach you, a lot of what I train you on comes directly from the Bible. This is a point that I'm going to make today, opening up that last attachment there, guys, with my Bible insight. My point today is that godly freight agents will always find contentment. Godly freight agents find contentment. That's my point for today. What does that mean? What do I base it on? Well, this is based on Philippians, the book of Philippians 4, verse 11. Book of Philippians 4, verse 11 reads, this is Paul writing, Paul the Apostle writing to the church at Philippi. He writes, I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am in. Paul writes to to the church of Philippi, 4th chapter, verse 11, I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I'm in. Now, these are good circumstances. They're challenging circumstances. They could even be considered as bad circumstances. I'll say this, every circumstance has their pluses and minuses. They all have value. But what does this mean? Well, here's a short description. The preoccupation with happiness and contentment in an ever-present theme in the modern world. We're bombarded with messages that tell us where to find peace and pleasure in a world that worships materialism and wealth. You have to agree with that. We're bombarded with messages all the time about materialism and wealth. But lasting contentment is not found in material possessions. Genuine contentment is a spiritual gift from God to those who trust in Him and follow His commandments. That's where you find contentment, folks. Where do we find it? If we don't find it in God, we'll never find it anywhere else, plain and simple. But if we put our faith and our trust in Him, we'll be blessed with an inner peace that is beyond human understanding. When God dwells at the center of our lives, peace and contentment will belong to us just as surely as we belong to God. Now, how do we apply this? Well, here's your application. Where do we find contentment? If we don't find it in God, as I repeated before, we'll never find it anywhere else. But when we put our faith and trust in Him, we'll be blessed with an inner peace that is beyond human understanding. How do you do that? Well, you got to put your faith and trust in God first, and then you'll feel the result of that after you do it. Let's look at a quote by John Maxwell. John Maxwell says, commitment doesn't come easy, and let's face it, it doesn't. But when you're fighting for something you believe in, the struggle is worth it. Here's another quote by Rick Warren, we become whatever we are committed to. If you're committed to drama and chaos, as I've talked about in other calls, well, believe me, that's what you're going to be committed to. That's going to be the end result. You're only going to focus on the drama and chaos in this world. That's why I keep saying, do not read the paper, do not listen to the evening news or the morning news. That all deals with drama and chaos. They use that to get our attention. If you want commitment, if you want contentment, I should say, open up the good book and you will find it there by just reading the book of John. Okay, great topic for today. Quick points before I get off here. Again, if you have any desire to join our top-notch freight team at Green Meadows Productions here, give me, Ted Keys, a call. My number here at the office is 626-309-9141. Any questions on material I went over today? Got any questions on that? Again, give me a call back. Same number, 626-309-9141. If you have any desire to hear the recording or the podcast on this call, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com. Click the podcast link at the top of the first page. For those of you who are with us moving freight and you have any questions on our LDI freight system, then call that same number, 626-309-9141. Ask for my wife, Maria. She will be happy to assist you in any of those questions pertaining to LDI freight. Great topic today, folks. Go ahead and read over those attachments again that I went over today on that email that I sent you. Other than that, take care. God bless. We will see you shortly down the road. Bye-bye.
You've just taken a tremendous step forward by watching and applying my Tuesday conference call highlight. Do you desire to earn and learn with our top freight team and Christian-based office? Yes? We're searching for a self-starter who's serious, motivated, and ready to take action right now. Is that you? Go to tedkeysonline.com/contacts and enter your contact details. We provide top-notch freight agent sales training to you. Then you deliver those same skills with confidence to the freight industry marketplace. I'll talk to you soon.